I started out selling weed in middle school and then moved to crack cocaine and robbing. I did robberies. That was my way mostly of making money and keeping money in my pocket. The big homies had the big dope, and they'll issue it out to the younger homies. They'll issue it down to the guys to the next level. And it was a way for everybody from the big homie, OG homies, all the way down to the homies in junior high school to make money. The homies in junior high school, they may be out there selling crack on the corners, $5 rocks, $10 rocks, $20 rocks. The big homies, they move in big weight, ounces, quarter pounds, stuff like that. The drugs came from a lot of times from drug cartels and as well as the government, believe it or not. I mean, there's a story about Freeway Rick, one of the biggest black dope dealers in the history of Los Angeles. And he was caught up in that Iran-Contra stuff with Ronald Reagan, and come to find out that the DEA was supplying him with dope, the same dope that they gave him 30 years for in prison. So, it's like, that's just how it worked. They put it in our neighborhoods to bring us down, to keep us down. Always a goal of Crips, to make a substantial amount of money and to open up your own business, whether it be a smoke shop, a liquor store, or a foods place, or whatever. That was the goal, to find a way to take that money and make it somewhat as legal as you can. The LA riots happened in 92. I was 18 years old at that time. The LA riots was a result of the Rodney King verdict. Those 4 officers that were clearly guilty as hell on video beating Rodney King half to death when they were found innocent, that just sparked something in the community. I didn't ever think I would see nothing like that. The ground zero of the riots happened 5 blocks from my house. I was sitting at home watching the news. I seen the news. So we jump in the car, we drive up to the riots. By this time, you got hundreds and hundreds of people starting to migrate to Florence and Normandy. So at this point, it just kicked off. It was spread like wildfire. Every car that came through the intersection that had a white person in it was getting attacked. I saw news reporters getting beat up. I saw cameramen getting beat up, getting the cameras taken from them. And at that time, it really didn't matter what gang you were from, because now it's a black against white thing now. So it didn't matter if you was a Blood or a Crip or whatever you was. Even though it was such a messed up day, it's such a fucked up day, it was also a day to kind of rejoice, because that was the first time in a long time that you saw common enemies, Crips and Bloods and Mexican gangs, come together against this one common enemy, the LAPD. And so after days of rioting, some of the community leaders like Jim Brown, the football player, a couple of popular gang leaders from different gangs, from different areas, different sets, had a meeting and decided that this was the perfect opportunity to try to bring a peace treaty, a truce between the gangs. Even though it was something bad that caused us to get to that level, it still was an opportunity for us to bring things together. The peace treaty lasted officially maybe a good couple weeks, and it kind of continued to dissolve as weeks and months went on, to the point to where it didn't exist no more. But for that little short time, it was great to have it.
The expansion in Africa.
When gangster rap came out, it introduced a lot of Cripping, a lot of Crips. And when NWA came out, which is the group that started gangster rap, Eazy-E, rest in peace, Eazy-E was known to be a Crip. And from him, you had other pioneer rappers that were from Crip neighborhoods. You had Snoop Dogg, you had Dub C, all these popular gang rappers that was in the neighborhoods representing their hoods that were blowing up on the mainstream. And so now you got people sitting at home watching MTV, 106 in Park. They're watching all these video shows, and they got these gang members doing rap videos. with the blue rags and the six foes and the low riders and wearing all the gang attire and the gang uniform, but they're actually artists making money on TV, and now it's being broadcast all over the world. Aside from the UK and the Netherlands, I've heard about Crips in China. I heard there's some Crips in Africa, which I've actually seen online, social media. People in Africa cripping and just loving this West Coast culture. And I think all these countries adapted on to these United States values and these United States ways just because of how it was glorified.
Right.
Not really understanding the meaning of it. You know, that people lost their lives and people are killing. This is not something to play with.
Yo, most of this shit is very weird, bro. Oh God, most of this shit is very weird. They just glorify, bro. They make it seem as if this shit is some shiny, nice, sad thing. It's not. Shit is really fucked up. People is really losing their lives about a street. That's crazy.
In 1994, I went to Oklahoma. I got a football scholarship to go to Oklahoma to play football. That's pretty much really what saved me from being killed or anything else bad happening to me on these LA streets. Played football there for 2 years at a historically black college. In 1996, 97, I moved to Oklahoma City, and I started working at the Juvenile Detention Center. They needed a gang advisor, a gang trainer. So, of course, I was qualified for that. Just volunteering my time, talking to the kids and, you know, educating them on gangs and telling them because I had no idea Oklahoma had a gang problem. So I went and I sat down with the chief of police to see exactly, you know, where did he want me to go with this. I did 2 years in the school system. They came to me and asked me that I want to interested into transferring to the streets, basically running traffic, pulling people over, writing tickets, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, let me do that. I'll do that. See what that's like. Because I actually want to see how they dealt with drug dealers, with me being on the other side of the law. And all the complaints that I had as a criminal, all the police brutality, all the mistreatment from the police, I got to witness that firsthand working with them. And a lot of times I would have to intervene on like, hold on, like, you know, it was a couple of times where they had to have that conversation with me. Look, either you with us or you with them. So even in the training in the police academy, I dealt with racism. I dealt with discrimination because a lot of those officers felt like this dude is a criminal. This dude is from the streets. How in the hell are you guys gonna let him work with us? Blah, blah, blah. That's why even after I became a police officer and I moved back to California, I still ended up hooking back up with my old homies and old gang members, and I ended up going to jail. Even after being a police officer, I went to jail. My experience with the LAPD, they still haven't found a way to deal with communities and cultures that they don't know nothing about. It's the same tactics, dirty cops, bogus charges, planting drugs, mistreatment because of who you are or what you represent. It's the same thing. It hasn't stopped. But one way the police can bridge the gap with the community is to continue to work with those that want to work with them. Big U is example from Rolling 60s. Guys that are gang activists that are trying to do things to stop the gang violence and help kids in the community and bring some positivity in the community. The main thing is to save lives. And after you save lives, you want to create opportunities.
Right.
I went to jail in Oklahoma for robbery. Since at that time, when I was out there, it was for a robbery that I did when I was living in Oklahoma. When I came back to California in 2006, I went to jail again in 2009 for another robbery. And they ended up finding about another robbery that I did, and they combined the cases. I ended up taking a 3-year deal. When I first got arrested, they took me down to the main LAPD headquarters, what they call the Parker Center. They transfer you the next day to the county facility. So I left the Parker Center that morning. They put me on the jail bus, took me to the county jail, which is known as the Twin Towers. You usually go into the tank. The tank is basically a holding area where a whole bunch of other gang members are at. And I'm talking about mixed in, Crips, Bloods, Mexicans, everybody. And that's like a box of dynamite waiting to explode. And sometimes you get put in those situations and the officers just leave you and they don't care. They don't, whatever happens in there, it happens. And you're gonna always find somebody in there that's gonna challenge you, especially if you're from a rival gang. You listen for the lingo, you listen to what they're saying. Or you might see people that you haven't seen since elementary and you lost contact with them, you wonder where they were at. Well, this is where they at. And so you find out that they from a Crip set. And so you guys just connect with one. Now, if it becomes a racial thing, Bloods and Crips, they find a way to unite against whatever race they have to go against. It can be some violence erupt in between the transportation into the different dorms or the different units. But for the most part, in the county jail, Crips was with Crips, Bloods with Bloods, or sometimes you get the general population where it's a mixed dorm. Now, don't get me wrong. If I went in there as a Menlo Crip or as a 60 Crip or 60 go in there and they run into some Hoovers, it's bad blood automatically. No matter we're Crips and we're Crips, we're in the same unit, it don't matter. We need to settle this beef. So I might walk in here and a Hoover Crip might say, hey, you from Menlo? I need that fade. So that lets you know that at some point, you and this guy have to fight because both of y'all sets don't get along. Inside or outside of prison with Crippin' is no different. The way you carry yourself on the streets is the same way that you expected to carry yourself in the prison, except at a higher level because it's a little more dangerous in prison than it is on the streets.
Right.
The thing that made me change my life was my kids. When I took the scholarship to the school, I was in the process of changing my life. I just didn't know it. But that was my start of changing my life. And when I started working with gangs and talking to the kids in the schools and at the juvenile jails, and I seen how I was getting through to them and how much they respected me from what I was telling them and trying to teach them, it just made me want to change. It just made me want to continue to do positive things. And that's what I've been doing ever since. I met somebody one day and they told me I had this look. It's like, you should get into acting. You should think about acting. So I started doing acting little gigs, doing extra roles. And so I've done several projects and been a part of several TV series and dramas and different things that have gotten my foot into the door of acting. So there's definitely some positivity that can happen from my past that was negative, yeah.
Yeah. Got my crack on. Yeah, bro. It's good we got good, bro. You gotta keep your head up. Be smart, too.